Well, it's Qualifier 2 and we have the preview on cricket.com today, and we're going to be joined in by a man from Melbourne and a man from Sydney. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Yes, I'm Avni Shagde watching yet another CDC Game Show match preview. We have Russel Arnold with his swanky headset once again, and Dirk Nannes, who's looking scruffy, roughy, but certainly is a toughie in terms of all the predictions. Right, with that rhyming out of the way, Dirk, who starts favourites? We'll start with you, RCB or RR?
On current form, I think I've got to go with RCB. I don't know why. I just feel as though there's something about it, this little campaign they're having at the end. Things are starting to go their way. They're starting to play some decent cricket. They're sharing the load around a little bit, and they're just waiting on a big game player, one of their big stars, to come through and put on a big score. So I reckon they're due to put on a really good show, and I reckon it's happening now.
Russ, how big a factor will momentum be heading into Qualifier 2, this Battle Royale, as they're dubbing it back home?
It's massive, really. I'm with Dirk. RCB it is. Right through the tournament, I always told you I felt they had another gear or even two to shift into, and Kohli coming into form now, 100 here for a newcomer, which just gives a feel-good factor. A nice feeling about how they're going about their business, whereas Rajasthan Royals, that lost the other day, and certain decisions they made will take its toll. It's going to be hard to pick themselves up. And if you look at the teams on paper, if the RCB team does show up, they're much more they're better balanced. I feel they should get on top of this, and it's all about feel-good factor.
Okay, I love it how both of you guys are saying RCB, because of course for me it always is. But look, I should not be biased because some of the comments have been heckled at me. Let's move on nicely to round one, and that's called How's That? Yeah, some appeal that. How's that? Now, the first question goes to Russ in this round, and it is about his fellow compatriot, Hasaranga, and what an addition he's been to RCB this year. I mean, it's money well spent, really, Russ.
It certainly has, and I also feel from Hasaranga's point of view, he's improved. But to what he can give that team, there is a little bit more in all three departments. When RCB went into the auction, I to my understanding, they were after two players. They were going to be spending a lot of money to get those two to make their core set of players, and then go from there. And those two players were Faf and Hasaranga, so they will be very, very happy with their returns and what they've got so far from these two players and Hasaranga himself.
That battle with Hasaranga and Samson, it's like he's almost had Sanju on toast. Do you think that'll continue, Russ?
Probably not how it panned out the last time they played against each other. Samson also is in great form. But you have to back Hasaranga to put pressure on, because the bowling unit as such is pretty decent. They're all contributing in one way, so it's not going to be easy to go after any of them or just pinpoint one. And I believe it's crunch time, and he's that type of player, Hasaranga. He's a street fighter, so I expect him to do the job and get the wicket or the real wickets that RCB need in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he's copied Neymar celebration, so let's see if there are more tricks up his sleeve. Dirk, coming to you then, I want to ask you how RR's batsmen are going to counter Harshal Patel.
Well, it's a challenge for so many reasons. We were speaking about this at the conclusion of the other night after he bowled so well, 1 for 25 off his 4 overs, and just bowling difficult overs as well. I think the challenge that he poses is his ability to almost think on a level playing field with the batsman, to know exactly, have this sort of sixth sense of knowing exactly what's the batsman's wanting and not bowling that ball to him. His slower balls and off-pace stuff is first class. And I think they really have to kind of watch that almost play that he's going to bowl a slower ball, particularly at the death. Because we've seen that so often. He sits there and bowls slower. And it's been so effective for him. And importantly for him, he's really accurate as well. So, I'm not sure that you necessarily can counter him and expect to take him down for 50 in a game or 40 something in a game. I think he's a better bowler than that. I think you've just got to almost play him as a front liner and just be content with taking, be content with taking 30 off him, and just get through and really try and target some of the other bowlers around him.
Okay, let's see how it all plays out. Let's move on to round 2 then, and this one's called Just a Minute. Right, Russ, this time it is for you, and we're going to be talking about that man, Rajat Patidar. How big of an issue has he solved for RCB with that innings, and how much faith has he given the rest of the batsmen who didn't perform on the other night?
Well, when you look at a team, you always look at the big names, the experienced players, the players who have done it and who have really got the opposition thinking about them. But up pops someone else and outdoes everyone, even for the opposition to plan, to even look for a weak link. How are we going to get through a couple of dots? It becomes a massive issue. And then it flows on, the same bit of confidence flows on to the players in your own team. And then they feel we got to lift in one sense. And then when you talk about roles, taking chances and trying to really accelerate, when you can trust the rest of your batsmen, it makes it a lot easier and everyone starts playing freely. When you start playing freely and you don't have doubts that you lose your wicket, your team's falling down, you're going to become dangerous. And that's what it's going to do to this RCB team.
Dirk, coming to you, and it's a Rajasthan Royals-centric one, this, because the top performers for RR, which has been pretty much Butler, Chahal, Prasidh and Hetmeyer, they've all had a decline in their returns in the second half of IPL 2022. How big a factor will this be going into this crunch game?
Well, we were speaking about it a fraction earlier when you said momentum, how important is momentum. I just don't feel when you come up against Rajasthan at the moment that you feel as though they're such an imposing opposition as they were halfway through the tournament. You would hate to play against them halfway during this tournament. Now, they're not quite as all-conquering. There are chinks in their armour. You just feel like if you take a few wickets, you can break through and get right through them. Look, is it a big factor? I think it's massive. You're asking, well, you're basically saying that a third of the players are not as good as they were halfway through the tournament, which means that clearly that team is not as good as they were at the start. Mind you, they're still playing great cricket. You look back at the other night, they were in with a real red-hot show, even coming into the last over, and then you don't really expect Miller to go 6-6-6, do you? It doesn't happen every day of the week. So they're still in with a show. They're still playing good cricket. I just don't think they're a team of superstars like you felt they were at the halfway mark of this tournament.
Okay, let's move on finally to round 3, which is the final word then, and it is, of course, them having their final say. Now, just a few things that I want to draw to your attention, gentlemen. Spin in the power play with RR. Do you think that's a tactic that Sanju Samson will employ against the so-called KGF, Kohli, Glenn and Faf? Russ, we'll start with you.
Well, you got to explore. You got to be flexible enough to change things around. Of course, you got to try and go with the swing early of Trent Bolt. It's a massive factor, and if he's getting it through, yes, that's what you do to pick up your wickets. But you assess the pitch, you assess how the batsmen are going, and if you feel you need to change it around, get on to it, because you have to pick up wickets. If not, you are going to pay the price. Sometimes we always talk about death bowling and teams scoring lots of runs there. But how do you control the death bowling? If you pick up wickets early, when you come to the death overs, it's the bowlers who are in, so they don't do as much damage. That's why it's so important that you have to keep striking. So it's a case of being flexible and assessing conditions and situations. If it's swinging around and bowls doing the job, hell, Let Bolt do it. Give him his 4 overs. What do you say, Dirky? Left armour, always dangerous, isn't it?
Well, it's always good when you got the ball swinging around, that's for sure. Yeah, look, I think we can try and be a little bit too cute with tactics. I think you just come out and you play the game situation. All these guys have played so much cricket that by the end of a tournament like this, they know the ins and outs of every single player in their own side and the strengths and the weaknesses. And I think as a captain, I think Samson's been fantastic at rotating the bowlers and knowing who to bowl when across the tournament. So, is spin the right thing to do against Virat and Faf? I don't know. I'd like to keep that sort of in the middle and know that you've got a bit of everything up your sleeve to be able to make changes. One thing I will say, still, I don't think that Ashwin is really that sort of wicket taker that we'd expect. He's been miserly this tournament, but he hasn't been a brilliant wicket taker. So that's something I'd like to see. I'd like to see him take a bundle of wickets at some stage.
Okay, let's see if that comes true in Ravichandran Ashwin's case. None for 40 the previous start, but definitely RR in general will want to put on a bit better performance against the Royal Challengers Bangalore side, who of course we all admitted have momentum going into this clash. That's all we have in this match preview with, of course, Dirk and Russ, but we can catch both of them post-match, so don't go anywhere for that, because that'll be another riveting chat. It's a goodbye from me, Avnish Hegde. Subscribe and keep watching cricket.com. We'll be back soon.